All right, now that Dad's gone, I'll be the one to distribute the inheritance.
After my husband David passed away and the funeral was over, our eldest son, Mike, immediately started talking about the inheritance.
What? Why should you be the one to do it?
Seeing the puzzled look on the face of his younger brother Kevin, Mike gave a sly smile.
Well, Dad's death was so sudden, he didn't leave a will, right? So, as the eldest, it's up to me to distribute it.
At Mike's words, I could only stare in astonishment.
First, I'll inherit all of Dad's real estate. Mom can have this house, and Kevin will get whatever's in Dad's bank account.
I exploded at Mike's selfish words. All this time, David had been sending money every month to support Mike and his wife because of their carelessness with finances. Yet, Mike seemed to forget all the kindness, not even mourning David's death, but only focusing on money. At that moment, Kevin made a suggestion to me. And it was then I decided to get back at the selfish couple. My name is Laura, and I'm 75 years old. I've been married to my husband David, a former office worker, for 50 years. I gave birth to our eldest son, Mike, when I was 27. Experiencing childbirth and parenting for the first time was a series of unfamiliar challenges, and it was so hard that I almost gave up. 3 years later, I gave birth to our second son, Kevin. You might think the second time around would be easier with some experience, but instead, the parenting struggles just doubled with the addition of another child. Raising 2 boys was, even in retrospect, an exhausting daily ordeal. However, once the kids got married and it was just David and me again, I began to miss those busy days. Though just an office worker, David earned enough to support our family of 4 comfortably, so we never struggled financially. After the kids graduated from college and our household finances eased, David started investing in real estate. I don't know the details, but he's made arrangements to ensure we have income for our retirement, so he wants me to feel secure. I respected and trusted David so much, and I thought we were set for a peaceful retirement without financial worries. However, reality wasn't so kind. Our serious son, Mike, failed his job search and started spending his days drinking and wasting money. Mike had always been a good student and attended the highest-ranked high school in our county, where he maintained decent grades. The neighbors praised him as a son to be proud of, and he seemed pleased about it too. For college, he moved to New York and attended a fairly well-known private university. As parents, we were proud of Mike and had no doubts he would land a job at a reputable company. However, once he left his hometown for New York, Mike was hit with the reality. There were many people who were more capable than him, and despite attending numerous job interviews at prestigious companies, he failed each one. Eventually, he returned home and got a job at a decent company. Apparently, a few of his middle school classmates worked at the same company. He ended up working under a classmate who had attended a much less competitive high school and had entered the workforce sooner after junior college. Whether this hurt Mike's pride or not, he began to drink to the point of losing his memory daily.
Mike, it's bad for your health to drink so much. Stop it.
What? Shut up, old man. Just lend me some money instead. My salary's too low to even go out drinking.
I just lent you money recently. I can afford to lend you tens of thousands of dollars every time.
Then Mike smashed the glass he was holding.
So you have a money to spare, but you won't lend any to your own son. I get it. You don't care about me because I failed in my career. Sorry for not being your pride and joy.
That's not true at all.
So you'll lend it to me, right?
David pondered for a moment and reluctantly handed Mike some money. Being physically large and strong, I couldn't oppose Mike, and all I could do was clean up the broken glass. Mike seems to feel inferior to his younger brother, Kevin. Kevin graduated from the school at a local national university and is now working as a lawyer. Both Mike, who works in a general company, and Kevin, who works as a lawyer, are precious sons to me. I think they are both admirable. However, no matter how much I say this to Mike, he just pushes me back. Kevin married a woman he had been dating since college and now lives nearby. However, Mike, even past the age of 30, still spends his days drinking and is flamboyant with women. Bad rumors about him have started spreading around the neighborhood. As he was living his life by borrowing more than $1,000 from David every month, I couldn't help but feel anxious about his future. Then, when Mike turned 38, he brought home a woman named Mary, saying he wanted to marry her.
Meeting Mary changed me. I've been too dependent on you guys until now. But from today, as a man, I plan to take care of Mary.
Seeing Mike smile calmly, I was relieved that he had finally changed for the better. Mary was 23 years old, 15 years younger than Mike. At the time, marriages with a significant age difference were rare, and I had my concerns. However, I was overjoyed that Mike wanted to be independent, and I blessed their marriage. But that was a mistake. Mary turned out to be very extravagant with money. 2 weeks after they got married, Mike and Mary came to our house and asked for money.
We're planning a honeymoon trip, but we're short on cash. Could you lend us some?
Where are you planning to go?
Mary wants to go to Italy.
Mike and Mary were looking at each other happily.
Italy's far and travel is expensive, right? Why not choose something more within your means, like a domestic trip?
What? A domestic trip for a honeymoon? Unbelievable. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Isn't it normal to fly first class to go abroad? David, you're wealthy. Why are you being stingy? If you have the money, just lend it to us right away.
Mary said this without any shame. Mike didn't reprimand her. Instead, he nodded deeply in agreement with her words.
Really, Dad has always been stingy. You have the money, so stop being so tight. Mom and you don't really spend much anyway, right?
Exactly. It's a waste not to use money. We'll spend it for you.
Seeing Mary's beaming smile gave me a headache. Mary was unlike anyone I had ever met before, and I didn't know how to deal with her. The two of them wouldn't listen and kept saying it was natural for David, who has money, to share it with them since they don't have any. Not just for the honeymoon, but they would often run out of money and come to our house asking for loans. Before I knew it, David had started sending money to Mike and Mary every month, like an allowance.
When will this kind of life end?
David was exhausted as he muttered that. Although our younger son Kevin tried to talk sense into Mike, Mike avoided him, wouldn't answer calls, and didn't reply to emails. Ultimately, even after Mike turned 40, David continued the financial support. Suddenly, that way of life came to an abrupt end. David passed away from an aortic dissection without any warning. I couldn't accept this sudden departure. No matter what I was doing, memories of David would flood back, and I couldn't stop the tears. While I was consumed by grief, it was Kevin who took care of the funeral arrangements and other necessary tasks. Despite his own grief, Kevin managed everything from arranging the funeral home to contacting relatives, ensuring the funeral went smoothly. Surrounded by former colleagues, neighbors, and longtime friends, David was sent off to heaven. Then, back home from the funeral home, as we sat drinking tea as a family, Mike suddenly stood up.
All right, now that Dad's gone, I'll be the one to distribute the inheritance.
What? Why should you be the one to do it?
Well, Dad's death was so sudden, he didn't leave a will, right? So, as the eldest, it's up to me to distribute it.
I was dumbstruck and could only stare at Mike as he spoke.
First, I'll inherit all of Dad's real estate. Mom can have this house, and Kevin will get whatever's in Dad's bank account.
There isn't much money in David's account. At most, about $5,000. The several $100,000 David had saved over the years, as a frugal man, had all been converted into allowances for Mike and Mary. Mike is aware of this and is probably trying to leave Kevin with only the small amount of money in the account for inheritance.
Kevin is making good money anyway, right? No problem for him. And Mom, you don't have much longer to go, so you don't need money, and I'll take it. Okay.
I exploded at Mike's selfish words. So, no more financial support from now on.
What? Old lady, you might as well drop dead too.
At Mary's words, Kevin sighed deeply. Then he said something shocking.
All right, then. Mom and I will do without any inheritance. We'll renounce our claims.
Kevin, what are you saying?
It's okay.
As I raised my voice in surprise, Kevin whispered in my ear.
I don't really need the money, and I'll take care of you, Mom. Let Mike and Mary have all of Dad's estate. They can even live in this house if they want to.
At Kevin's words, Mike's eyes lit up.
Kevin sure is understanding. Just don't come back later asking for a share of the inheritance. Okay.
Of course. Just one condition. Can I handle the inheritance proceedings? I know plenty of accountants.
No problem at all. That's actually perfect. With Dad's estate, we can live it up.
Yeah, there's a bag I've been wanting. And I want to go on a trip.
Mike and Mary went home discussing all the things they wanted to do with the inheritance. I glared at Kevin. Why would you say something like that? Even after Dad died, Mike shows no sadness and only thinks about money. I don't want him to have any inheritance, and this house is filled with precious memories.
It's okay. I have a plan.
Kevin was smirking as he said that.
Let's get back at Mike.
And then, Kevin began to describe his plan for revenge. I was speechless at what he proposed.
You'll help me, won't you, Mom?
I nodded immediately. After all this time, Mike has squandered David's money and hasn't even shown grief at his passing. I no longer love Mike as a son. I was resolved to teach him a harsh lesson. 3 months later, I had moved into Kevin and his wife's house.
All the inheritance is settled, and all of Dad's estate has gone to Mike.
So, everything is ready.
It's all good.
Kevin spoke confidently as we slowly sipped coffee after breakfast. Just then, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. The monitor showed Mike and Mary.
Mike, what brings you here early on a Sunday morning?
It's not about what brings me here. What's this about?
Suddenly, Mike's angry voice boomed. Kevin, unfazed and relaxed, responded,
Don't shout. You're disturbing the neighbors. I'm coming to open the door. Just wait.
When Kevin opened the door, there stood Mike and Mary, looking furious.
Hey, I got a collection notice from the bank. What's this about?
Exactly. We haven't borrowed any money from the bank.
When I called the bank, they said it was money Dad had borrowed. But why do I have to pay it? Explain.
Mike demanded, his face red with anger.
That's obvious, isn't it? Because you inherited Dad's estate.
What? So why am I losing money because I inherited it? It's not about inheritance tax, is it?
Yeah. Besides the inheritance tax, you'll also have to deal with the debts Dad owed. The collection notice is asking for repayment of those debts.
Dad had debts. What are you talking about? Dad was wealthy, wasn't he? His apartments were worth millions of dollars, and he was making tens of thousands every month in rent.
Kevin shrugged in exasperation.
He wasn't exactly in debt. He had taken out loans. It's common among those who invest in real estate. You borrow money from the bank to buy properties and then pay it back with a rental income.
On the day of Dad's funeral, after Mike and Mary had left, Kevin had told me about David's debts. Just 2 months before he passed, he had purchased an apartment worth over $500,000 and had a substantial amount to repay to the bank. Debts are also inherited, so it was suggested that it might be better to renounce the inheritance, and I asked Kevin to handle the proceedings.
If Mom and I claim the inheritance as well, the debt would have been split 3 ways. But since you wanted to inherit everything, Mike, you end up inheriting all the debts as well.
What? What's that all about? Pretending to be rich, but actually just borrowing from the bank. What a pretentious old man.
How can you say such a thing? As I glared at Mary for her words, she clicked her tongue loudly.
Don't get so mad. It's not just any debt. It was a loan. There's rental income, so just make the monthly payments.
It's because we don't have that kind of money that I'm angry. We thought we were going to get a lot of money and even went on a trip yesterday.
We've already spent all our savings, so we don't have any money to pay the bank. You guys should pay it instead.
Ignoring Mike and Mary's demands, Kevin tilted his head.
Why should I have to pay? Isn't the rental income due soon?
We can't wait for that. There are also credit card bills, and it's not enough.
That's your responsibility for spending all the money, isn't it? Why do Mom and I have to clean up your mess?
At Kevin's exasperated tone, Mike and Mary frowned.
Stop acting so superior. You've always belittled me. Don't look down on me.
I'm not looking down on you. It's just common sense, isn't it? If you don't live within your means, you'll end up regretting it.
At Kevin's words, Mike twisted his face in frustration.
I've got it.
At that moment, Mary, who was next to Mike, smiled broadly as she said that.
If there's debt anyway, maybe we should just renounce the inheritance, right? If Laura could do it, so can Mike.
Exactly. You're smart. I'll renounce the inheritance too. Kevin, you handle the paperwork.
At Mike's words, Kevin grinned mischievously.
Unfortunately, you can no longer renounce the inheritance. You can only do so within 3 months. It's been over 3 months since Dad passed away, so Mike, you have no choice but to inherit everything.
What? That's unfair.
That's right. Just getting yourselves out of the debt, you cowards.
I had to suppress my laughter as Mike and Mary stomped their feet in frustration. I hadn't expected everything to go exactly as Kevin had said. Kevin had intentionally waited until the 3 months passed, claiming that the inheritance procedures were taking time to make sure Mike would inherit everything, including the debts. And the moment the 3 months were up, he informed them about the estate, ensuring they couldn't renounce the inheritance.
Legally, only Mike needs to pay back the debt, so we're out of it. If repayment is tough, why not sell the condo and turn it into cash?
If we do that, we'll lose the passive income.
That's true. You either continue paying the mortgage with a rental income or sell the condo now and pay off the debt. It's up to you to decide, Mike.
Mike was fidgeting irritably.
Now that you understand what the collection notice means, can you leave? It's still early in the morning, and I don't want my day off ruined.
At this, Mike and Mary started to panic.
Wait, the discussion isn't over. We don't have money right now. Please, just pay for this month instead.
Sorry, but that's impossible. I've got big expenses this month too.
Don't say that. We're brothers, aren't we? Brothers should help each other out. Kevin, you have a good income and extra money, right?
Then Kevin laughed out loud.
Is that something you, who only thinks of himself, should say, Mike? Weren't you the one who wanted a bigger share of the inheritance? You didn't even help with the funeral arrangements and only bring up being brothers when it suits you.
That's...
Sorry, but I'm not earning money for you, Mike. Dad might have given you money, but I won't be providing any financial support.
Kevin said this as he looked straight at Mike. Despite all the insults Mike had hurled at him over the years, Kevin had never talked back. But it seemed he had been holding back stress all this time. The tone of Kevin's voice, colder than I had ever heard, revealed how much he disliked Mike, who did nothing but play and never made any effort. When Mike realized Kevin wouldn't help, he turned to me in desperation.
Mom, please, can you lend me just a little money?
No way.
Don't say that. I have an idea. Let's live together. Then we can use your pension to pay the bank, and you won't have to worry about your living expenses, right?
Mary looked at me with sparkling eyes as if she had just proposed a brilliant plan, but I had reached my limit. Cut it out. How could I possibly live with someone who told me to just drop dead?
Mary was just joking. Mom, she couldn't have been serious.
Yes, it was just a joke. Don't be mad.
Mike and Mary were sweating as they desperately grabbed my shoulders.
Mom, you must be worried about your retirement, right? You've been a homemaker all your life. so you probably don't have much savings, and I'm working so we won't struggle for food or shelter.
Sorry, but I'm not struggling for money.
What? What do you mean?
Perplexed, Mike and Mary demanded an explanation. Actually, David allowed any leftover money I received for living expenses to be deposited into my account. He told me I could spend it as I pleased, but since I didn't really want anything, it just kept accumulating. Now I have nearly $200,000 saved.
If you have that much money, then lend some to me. Your son is struggling here, Mom.
I was dismayed by Mike's pleading. Can you stop? You didn't even grieve when David passed away, so don't call yourself my son. I told you I won't assist you financially anymore, so I'm not giving you any money.
Please, listen, I've been quiet about it, but I have debts. I wanted a larger inheritance to pay them off. I'm already struggling to make the repayments, and I can't afford to take on Dad's debts too.
I wasn't really surprised by Mike's sudden confession. Despite having an income of around $30,000, he went on overseas trips and dressed in branded clothes from head to toe. I thought the money David lent him wouldn't have been enough. No wonder you're always thinking about money. If you have debt, you should be living more modestly and focusing on paying it back. Despite their debts, Mike and Mary were indulging in luxuries like buying designer bags. They probably used the money they got from David to pay off their debts. It seems they were naively thinking that once they got the inheritance, they could pay off all their debts and then relax.
Mom, help me out. I admit I've been bad in the past. We'll take care of you in your old age. We'll do anything.
I don't need you to look after me in my old age. I have enough money to afford a nursing home, and I have Kevin.
That's right. Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of you. Mike, you should just think about yourself.
Damn it. Why is this happening?
Mike pounded the floor with his fists repeatedly. Kevin grabbed his arm and led him to the entrance.
Can you please not involve us anymore? Bye now.
Hey, are you really kicking us out? The conversation isn't over yet. At least lend me the money for this month's debt repayment.
Kevin and I exchanged exasperated glances. All the debts are your responsibility. If you had discussed this with us sooner, we could have helped a bit more, but we can't be kind to someone who tries to swindle money like you.
By the way, even if we're family, lying to borrow money and not paying it back could be considered fraud. You should be grateful you're not being sued.
Fraud. That's not what I intended at all.
Mary covered her mouth and trembled. After realizing what they had done, Mike and Mary quieted down, and Kevin pushed them out the door.
Wait, Kevin, Mom, I was wrong. Please help me.
Please. Don't be mean. Forgive me. I'm sorry.
Mike and Mary were apologizing loudly like school children, but we didn't respond at all. Perhaps embarrassed by the neighbors' glances, they reluctantly went back home. It seems Mike and Mary ended up selling the condo. But as Kevin predicted, the selling price was lower than the purchase price, and they still have about $50,000 in debt left. Originally, Mike had about $200,000 in debt and seems to have filed for bankruptcy due to difficulty in repaying it. Their house, car, and designer items were seized, and now they are living in a run-down apartment without a bath. And when Mary, who was only after the money, realized they wouldn't get the inheritance, she immediately asked Mike for a divorce.
You can't just divorce me when things get tough.
Mike refused to divorce. They are still arguing about whether to divorce or not, and the situation seems to have gotten quite messy. And I, surprisingly, was able to get back the house I shared with David. The house was put up for sale, and Kevin bought it for me. Honestly, it's a bit old because it's been years since it was built, but it's a precious home where I lived with David and our children. I'm really happy to be able to spend time again in this irreplaceable home. Concerned about me living alone, Kevin and his wife come to visit every week, and my happy life has returned. Honestly, I still get sad thinking about David, but I hold on to the happy memories and cherish the rest of my life.